Ubisoft and Siege have problems, and I want to talk about this. Hi there, I'm Demon. I started playing Siege in 2016, I was a diamond player, and I've got over 5,000 hours in Siege on however many accounts. I've also been involved in the development stage of multiple different games, so I feel qualified enough to approach this fairly from a couple different angles. This script was originally just going to be some dumb discussion on why I dislike changes they made after I stopped playing the game, and how poor management was making a unique experience worse. But after playing the game recently, I decided to completely rework it to address the issues in the vain attempt that something might come from it. I want to preface this by saying that I still enjoy Siege to an extent. It was always a game that I was embarrassed to admit was my favourite because of the public image they earn themselves, but this goes beyond one person not enjoying their favourite game as much. Siege has always been a difficult game for many to pick up. Even the simplest mechanics have been able to confuse friends that I've tried to introduce to the game, but a proper esports title should be one that's fair and consistent. The problem is that to a company like Ubisoft, consistent is basically profanity. I can't see 90% of the people that are shooting me. That mirror was not on my screen at all. And it's been like that for... He didn't fucking hit me, dude! I'm holding 90. No. No. This is the frame I shot. Unless there's a fly I can't see, that's a headshot. To be fair to Ubisoft, consistency is required on both sides. It'd be really ironic if there was some kind of reason why players wouldn't be able to achieve consistency, something such as, I don't know, them changing the recoil system every fucking season, while being something that aesthetically people loved. When the weapons went from bouncy recoil system to the crosshair perfectly following the recoil, it improved the experience, making it clearer when you hit and when you missed. Since that change, the recoil's been reworked or otherwise adjusted at the very least 4 times. Buck's C8 rifle used to be a laser beam with an ACOG, until they changed the recoil and it was nearly impossible to use. The FMG9 used to be a laser beam, and the last time they changed it while I was still playing, it was so bad I couldn't play Knock, as that's the only viable primary she gets. But even if your hit registration is working and you get good enough to handle the recoil, how are you supposed to learn to play a game when the enemy can play a horribly unbalanced character and automatically win the round?
Because we're kinda fucked here, right?
Clash is such a bad fucking operator, dude.
Where was that from?
I think from Archives. Dude, fuck Clash, it is such a fucking bullshit operator. There is no way to outplay her. By the time you shoot after displacing Clash's shield, it's settled enough that a solo player isn't going to be able to damage her. Because of the outright terrible decision to change how grenades work, they're not useful against Clash. They're only good for blowing your team up accidentally. No disrespect to that Glaz player, we've all been there. The fun thing though, this Clash was a champion player, and during that match, both me and Daniel, the guy I was queued with, were unironically copper 4s. This was something like our 3rd ranked match. We stopped playing Siege in the 3rd quarter of 2022, and while we were gone there's been like 2 reworks to how the rank system works. We had to win casual matches to unlock rank. We start at the very lowest rank, and the only match we've been able to win, in heavy quotation marks, is a match where the enemy team surrendered first round because they were missing teammates. I lost count after 5 champion players, but how is there any way that coppers play against diamonds and champions? Upon her release in 2017, Zofia had a passive ability called Withstand that allowed her to self-revive if she was put in a down but not out state. Halfway through 2022, Ubisoft decided they didn't want operators to have these passive abilities because it made the game harder to understand for new players. This led to the removal of the Withstand mechanic, passive resistance to stuns, just getting rid of mechanics that didn't make sense for new players. I personally don't think this was a good idea, but it was gracious of the Siege team to clarify their views by making a change where, as long as a player had rook armor, they got this neat little mechanic where if they're put in a down but not out situation, they could withstand... Oh, yeah. They just removed it from one single person to put it on an entire team and really fuck up the balancing. I know that overall, ranks in video games mean literally nothing, but having a hidden MMR system with a visible facade rank, no incentive to learn aim and recoil control, and the constant changes to the fundamental cores is just an invitation for... People have been cheating in video games since before I was born. Nothing anybody could say would stop people from cheating. but a company should have an obligation to their consumers, and Ubi's approach to cheaters has always been historically bad and mostly counterintuitive. Out of 7 ranked matches, we had 5 confirmed cheaters. However, I want to make it clear I'm not going to give any attention to anyone in specific without good reason. Also, while it is admittedly a small stat pool, 5 out of 7 is a 71% encounter rate. A while ago, I was a good enough player that cheaters weren't too much of an issue. When I played COD, I had a rifle I named the anti-cheat, because as long as I could react quick enough, it could kill a cheater before they had a chance to kill one of my teammates. Only the most blatant cheaters could get past it. But like, a casual player shouldn't have to choose between just putting up with cheaters or getting to a level where they consistently outplay cheaters. Also, as a random aside, I got shadow banned like 6 different times playing Modern Warfare 22 and I'm still pissed at that. I played an SMG to prove to a friend that it was too OP and got shadow banned mid-match. You have been disconnected from Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 servers. I'm not sure if it's still the way it used to be, but back when I was playing Siege competitively, Ubi decided that they'd take 3 or more months to ban most players because they didn't want the cheater to know why they were banned. When a season only lasts 3 months, and it takes 3 months for a cheater to get banned, the prospect of having MMR rollback is just kind of pointless. Looking at it from a cheat maker's view, they know they've got a certain window where their cheats work and aren't banned, so they can drum up loads of sales before that particular cheat is banned, and they can work on new methods. If a player was banned as soon as they were detected cheating, it'd make the designing of cheats harder and much less lucrative, which could very well drive off some of the makers. It's common knowledge that banned cheaters tend to create or buy a new account to continue cheating, so if they were detected and acted upon quicker and harder, it'd make the financial prospect much less appealing, meaning less time impacting regular players and less monetary incentive to continue cheating. You definitely could say that everything I've talked about so far is poor implementations, bad luck, or whatever else, but that very kindly leads us into... Ubisoft as a company are famous for making amazing games that have given us countless hours, days, even years of experience. Unfortunately, they decided to throw all that out the window and start over. I'm writing this script on the 18th of April and we've already had a week or two of controversy over what players will get in the Battle Pass of a £115 game that doesn't come out for another 4 months. That converts to something like $140 or €135 for those of you that use the wrong currency. There's a website called R6Fix which allows players to report bugs and problems to Ubisoft, which is almost good. If you make a bug report, it has to be reproducible by others on a website nobody knows about, and if it doesn't hit that threshold, it gets binned. It's easy to see why Ubisoft have been terrible at fixing issues when you realise they're still running off of an archaic system that, to this day, is recommending bugs that have been solved 5 years ago. I was trying to see if anyone else had reported a bug of operators missing ACOG sites, and the first suggestions are things so old they can pretty much buy alcohol themselves. Siege is running off of an antiquated engine that was originally created in 2007 for Assassin's Creed, and refined multiple times. This is an engine that was designed for single-player, casual experiences back before we realised banks were ruining the economy, before Heath Ledger's iconic performance as the Joker, and when gay marriage was still illegal in many parts of America. While, yes, it has been refined and renamed twice since then, it's still a grandpa in comparison to modern day titles. To play devil's advocate for a minute here, the COD games are running off of an offshoot of the Quake engine, just like Valve's Source 2 engine was originally Gold Source before. But that means that's 2 companies that have managed to successfully upgrade their sound engine, or like 7 companies depending how you look at all the different COD studios. In May of 2017, Ubisoft decided to kick itself into gear, and instead of providing new content, they released Operation Health, a full season dedicated to fixing the server performance, hit registration, and sound bugs. It wasn't particularly successful, and it was the butt of many jokes for years to come, but the fact that they'd willingly pause everything to address the problems and improve the player experience is a level of dedication we've never seen since. In 2021, we saw Ubisoft changing their servers over to Amazon's server hosting service AWS, and in a historical fuck-up, they had servers running between something like 20Hz to 60Hz, and there was no way of telling which you'd end up on, other than just trying to play and getting hit with the worst server performance of your life. This was also when PC players could cross-play with Google Stadia players. Woo! Yeah, the Stadia died like right after. For Year 9 Season 1, they didn't even finish a bunch of animations before releasing the update. Ranked matchmaking is queuing a lot of people that have never achieved higher than gold against diamond players. Several operators are missing attachments, and even the MVP system that's been working flawlessly for like 6 years is broken. It now counts whoever's yellow ping number 1 as the MVP regardless of scores. Ubisoft are literally breaking things that didn't need to be touched. Between Operation Health, changing server providers, and countless tweaks to their systems, hitreg and desync are still a massive issue to this day, and you'll constantly find yourself dying around corners and behind solid walls despite running a crisp 16 millisecond ping. A game being fundamentally broken is like the last thing you want, and it often leads to very poor. Hey, editing demon here. While writing this script, I realised it sounded like I was just talking about myself and nothing else in this section. I promise there's more to it than just me. When I started playing Siege back in 2016, I was on a really bad AMD APU. That's the little integrated graphics you get on your CPU. I ran Siege at about 480p, getting somewhere around 30 FPS max. I was poor and in college, but I had an experience I've still to this day not found in any other title. It's not that there was one moment where I decided, yeah, I like this game. It's that I was playing, getting absolutely destroyed, and then I realised that I really loved how the game feels to play. Before Siege, I think the most competitively I ever played a game was trying to finish the final mission in Simpsons Hit and Run. Never managed to, by the way. There was something about how Siege felt. The shooting, the leaning, how it all came together so well. I had probably 10 games in my Steam library back then, and now, 8 years later, I'm up to 733. Out of all the FPS games I've played, I've never once found a game that could match the gun feel of Siege. Especially not that one Siege spin-off game that I refuse to accept actually exists. I was bad, like really bad. I'd get hyped that I got more than 3 kills a round. MVP was a rare treat for me, that I only really got if everyone else just played extremely poorly. Unfortunately, I was actually able to find some really old videos of back then, so I kind of feel obligated to add them. I took the liberty of making them 16:9, but I can't really do anything about the bad FPS and drop frames, sorry. If it hurts you to watch, feel free to skip forward 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Why is there no bonfires here? Just kidding out. Is this a clutch? Is that a clutch?
Op 4 eliminated.
Can't even tell what's going on at this point. Although that's his second team kill, and he's not been kicked yet.
Knock knock.
I don't know how much that used to, or if any. Go on sledge. Go on, my son.
Protect the bio container. Op 4 stop securing the container.
That did not work.
Securing the container once the threat is neutralized. Friendly, last operator standing. All friendlies have been eliminated.
I loved the feeling of Siege so much that I decided to grind it out, get better, and that one day I'd get Diamond rank. It quite literally almost killed me a couple of times, but I managed to do it in the end. I finally earned my Diamond rank on the 14th of August 2022, and promptly stopped playing competitive games because I'd achieved all I wanted to. Unfortunately, the only footage I have of that is completely blocked by YouTube because of some music, and my ranked partner deciding to scream the worst possible word he could 6 times in a row, right as I ranked up. After that, I stopped playing for medical reasons. I do believe myself somewhat of an edge case, but nobody should have to put Rainbow Six Siege as a cause of death. I've tried to help a fair amount of people get into Siege, but the most common complaint was about the overall player experience. bad servers, bad hit reg, and all this on a game most people find harder than a PhD. And it's a shame, because when you really understand the basics, the game's really as easy as getting a PhD in gender studies. The onboarding experience has been a little rough for players, as most aren't used to hero shooters, tactical gameplay, or both at once. But as we want to be constructive, I'd easily say that half of the issue isn't because of Ubisoft. It's because people don't want to improve their skills. They just want to be at the best they can without putting in the time to get there. When I tried out Counter-Strike 2 a couple months ago, I was queuing with people that had been playing CS for years, having a collective playtime of longer than Siege has existed, an inventory worth more than I ever earned working, and they're still in Silver 2. And trust me, I wish that was hyperbole. Because one good player can often single-handedly defeat an entire team of new players, many people decide that they don't want to, or they don't feel like they can get any better, which unfortunately feeds into the growing cheating problem that gaming is experiencing. Ubisoft isn't off the hooks though. The rest of the blame falls on them and their shortcomings. Even if you look at it from a hyper-capitalist point of view, Ubi should be doing what the players want, because that gets reflected in microtransaction sales and new players finding it from word of mouth. I don't think US politics are as divisive as Siege's random changes are. Because I was looking for whether someone had already reported that bug I mentioned earlier, I saw a lot of opinions such as, ACOG scopes take no skill, bring back 1.5, I'm uninstalling, where our poor upset users saying how recoil feels worse on ACOGs, which is, it sort of is. A lot of people don't realise that scopes have different sensitivities, and to have a 1-to-1 sensitivity for ACOG you need to have some ridiculously high number instead of having it at 100, which would sort of make sense, but I digress. I've always been of the opinion that your scope doesn't matter if you're a good enough player. My role when I was grinding Siege was a flex, meaning I could play any role. But many people decide to just main one operator and one specific scope, and they never learn any better. While that's how they choose to play, which is fine, it leads to frustration at the lack of consistency when they're in a situation where they need to adapt. Another complaint I came across, ACOG has ruined Siege, where the user very correctly states that the current state of Siege is dictated by gunfights and nothing else, when the alleged reason to get rid of the 1.5 scope was to combat the TDM meta. This isn't a video game anymore, it's a psychological experiment on Stockholm Syndrome. These community complaints, and the ones I don't mention verbally, show that the changes Ubi are making are to the detriment of the average player's experience. While I'm glad to see ACOG's back, Siege isn't the same tactical game where your actions matter. It's a fight over who can play scummier, and that's something that stops a lot of people from even considering it a viable game. Ubisoft are either ignorant of, or inconsiderate towards the effects of the changes they make, while neglecting the god-awful sound bugs. I sent a bunch of my friends a single clip with no context. I said nothing, just sent them the clip individually, and they all unanimously agreed that they heard this enemy in Kids the complete opposite direction to where he actually was.
Double window. No? Maybe a flag. Oh, armory. Or tower.
All friendlies were eliminated. Mission failure.
I heard on a cam, armory or tower, like that side.
Most of them don't even play Siege or know of its horrendous sound engine, yet they were in agreement that the sounds we heard aren't what should have happened. Because of ranked matchmaking being broken, I've been stuck playing unranked, which doesn't help because my unranked MMR is higher than my ranked ever was, and it's a pretty common occurrence I have to add another pro player to the list of pros I've already played against. Every single unranked match has at least one champion per team, and for a regular person returning to a game they haven't played in years, to be going against the people that are paid money to be the best of the best, it's not really fair. I do hope this hasn't come across as a brag, because there's nothing impressive about getting beat to shit in every match you play. There's plenty more that could be said, but listening to my voice for too long is a form of torture that's banned for being too effective, so I think anything further is best said by anyone other than me. If anyone made it this far, I want to say thank you for hearing me out. I know I'm not good at speaking, I want to get better, but I'm just bad. But these are my opinions, and this is something that I've felt for a long while, and I've wanted to get out I've never had the time or the actual things to say, and I don't want to just be a whiny little bitch. This is something that's affecting a lot of video games, and it's not just Siege, but because I've got so much experience in Siege, this is something I can point at and say, this is what's happening here, it's also happening there. And I think if we bring up more discussion on the state of video games and the way things are going, and the things that we don't like, hopefully in some utopian future we can actually get to a point where people enjoy playing games and it's not something full of rage and hatred and vitriol. So thanks.
10 seconds. 5 seconds. Op 4 eliminated.
That was so bad, Jesus Christ. I was so scared.